She had endured attitude from other girls, other normal girls that are out here wearing Dr. Martens that they got for Christmas, while she was rocking a Gucci pump. Yeah, she could only hang out with the women that were these men's sides, and these women ranged in age from, I guess, teenage years to also early 20s. They tend to have to be trophies, so they are young women that are just being tossed to and fro, living the high life with moneyed men that like to be entertained by these women. And apparently this is a necessary thing that needs to happen because everybody gotta eat, apparently, allegedly. And so that is where it is that Petchu then made a decision to essentially start ignoring every last female in the streets. That is when she started to be cold, aloof, despondent, unresponsive to other regular women, such that when she was now a woman in her 20s, she could not hang out at a braai and have a conversation with Karabo, have a conversation with Lerato, Gotatso, Tsegofatso, whoever is there. She could not have a proper conversation and be good with them, because the moment she got close to normal women, that which happens between friends will start to happen, and she would then start getting the vibe of judgment that she endured when she was just a kid, from the time she was a child, where the whole community of parents was out there telling their daughters, I don't want you hanging out with her, and their daughters also gossiped her on some, oh, she is a this, she's always with older men, blah blah blah. That's what she always was. So she ostracized herself from what she called little kids that don't know anything about life. Little kids of which are her age. We are all 16, we are all 15, but she is ugogo in comparison to all of us, because she is living high rolling lives. She's always in penthouses and skyscrapers, expensive hotels, drinking alcohol that most of us would never ever see, never mind taste, until we turned 30. And yet this chick was out just sipping on it at 17. That's what Petchu was about. Alright, but you see, there is a slay queen in this country, a former one, or maybe it is a present one, I don't know what's going on, by the name of Kanyimbao. The thing about slay queens and them dating these older guys in order to get money, blah blah, is that there's no love. And a woman wants to be loved. It is written in God's word that our judgment as women, from now on, Eve, when she fell, was told that from now on your desire will be for your husband. So essentially, the desire of a woman is love. It is to be adored by a man and to adore a man back. Love is very important to a woman. So a woman can't ignore it for indefinitely. They can't indefinitely ignore love. Women cannot indefinitely ignore love. They just can't, okay? Or their need for it. So while being used to our put madlesa that are much older, Kanyimbao will eventually get to a point where she now longs for love, and it now becomes possible to be pursued as Kanyimbao by a regular dude your age that out here charms the living daylights out of you, and then you date and you fall in love and you actually have a meaningful relationship. That happened with Kanyimbao, shocking all of South Africa. Kanye, of which was busy dating all of these older men. Remember that Tina's one that died, that white guy, but then there was Mandla Mthembu, blah blah blah, what a fish paste, right? She dated all of these like wealthy guys. Well, Mandla became wealthy because of a lawsuit, etc. Now today we believe he's like a bum that's lost everything, but at this stage he had a whole chunk of money, and that's why she married him, gave him a baby. Then there was a white guy, then there was just the slay queen out here doing the rounds in these streets, dating really wealthy men, to a point of even getting interviewed on special assignment. I don't even know what that was about, because if she wants to do what she wants to do, let her do it. It's not that taboo so as to eventually end up on special assignment. Like, anyway, whatever. And she gave, is it Deborah Petter or whatever, a run for her money. I will admit her interview was embarrassing. She could not, that woman could not stand against Kanyimbao. But anyway, whatever, right? That was what was going on with Kanyimbao. The next thing, after this chick has been dating these men who are twice, 3 times her age, she then just shocks us all and dates a regular dude from 1981. Regular dude from 1982, 83. Basically, Intanga. Basically a dude that was the kind of guys that we were dating. The guy that was belonged to that musical group or whatever. And he wasn't quite put madlesa. He was just pushing passion as a regular dude. And Kanyimbao dated him. And everybody in the country was like, so she can date guys her age and that are like not vile, that they're not exactly Mark Zuckerberg. They're not out here starting Facebook and coining it. Yeah, but I wasn't surprised when Kanye did that, because women want love and women want to feel a partnership, a sense of camaraderie, and it is really nice and exciting to just be in love type of establishment thing. And with that Teboho guy, she was in love. I do believe the relationship eventually ended, but it did last years. It lasted a couple of years. It was a long-term relationship that lasted some time, and nobody expected it to last as long as it did, because they were like, hey, lo muntu lona does not have money and Kanye is a slay queen. That whole glitch in the matrix of Kanye Mbao to date Teboho, the regular young guy, yeah, it happened with Petunia, because Vusi came along and he was a regular young guy like us. Even he was doing well for himself, but for his age, he was a young professional that had his own car, his own apartment. He was a young professional that had his own car and his own apartment, but he wasn't exactly put Madlesa. He wasn't living in an estate. He was not driving 7 cars. He was just a successful young man that did well for himself as at that stage. And she fell in love with him. She fell in love with Vusi. She fell in love with Vusi against her mother's better judgment. On some, do not date for love, my daughter, but women can't help but chase after it. Okay, so here it is that Kanye Mbao's met with Teboho, but instead of it being Kanye, it's Petunia has met with Vusi. And that's when they started dating, and the relationship lasted just like with Kanye Mbao for years, but it eventually ended because of the instability of Kanye, otherwise known as Petunia. And it was Petunia that walked out on Vusi because of the fact that Vusi, I guess, was not quite enough anymore, even though Vusi is the one that hooked her up with that job as a broker. Okay, cool beans and bananas, right? So the reason why Petu was that weird towards us was because she was just not trying to test it. She was not trying to play games. She was not trying to give any woman a chance that then is gonna argue be judging her for her lifestyle. And also because we were the friends of her boyfriend, if at all we were to learn of the lifestyle that is affording her all of this Gucci and what have you, the news could have broken out to a guy that she actually did love. But you see, how you gonna keep a man in your life when you're out here rocking all this Gucci and all this Fendi? How you gonna keep a man in your life when you are obviously straying from him? You are obviously wandering out there like a periscope in a submarine, scanning the world left to right. How you gonna keep him in a bunch when he's the one that you love, in comparison to the ones under whom you lie there like a Nando's chicken to just get it over and done with? Basically your life as a prostitute. How in the world are you gonna make a man that is the one that you love just overlook it, like act like it ain't there, like make it like cellophane, invisible? Witchcraft. Petu out here kept Vusi tranquilized with horse sterilizer using witchcraft. He kept the guy a zombie. He made her boyfriend, she made her boyfriend Iskova. She made her boyfriend a zombie. And they lasted for years, with his boys being like, yo, I got to lay on this situation. We don't know what's going on. Obvious. She was feeding that man Nestum and purity. She was feeding that man baby formula. Do you understand? And the guy was gone. He was here. Could not even fight at all. He absolutely hated it when his boys would raise it. And the relationship ended because she was done. The relationship ended because she was done. And she realized that, okay, if I stay with this guy, it might result in marriage. And I don't want to marry a man that cannot take care of me. That guy might have eventually gotten to the point of maybe being a millionaire if you just grow with him. But nah, she just wanted somebody that had already arrived. And apparently, Vusi was wasting her time. That was the root situation of, who is this? Of Petu. So with Petu having that for a root, she then was taught, trained by the very same mother, the very same mama, how to manipulate things so as to favor you. You can't just keep a man pouring out, vomiting as like bile out of a stomach, all of his everything, with so many other women in the streets on the left and on the right. If you want to keep a man pouring into you, you gotta handle him with spells. So her mother not only taught her a form of prostitution, but the mother also from a very early age trained her witchcraft. So this chick was a witch, chilling amidst regular women who were yet to become witches, how they all have become Petunia now, right? She was not only a witch, but she was also a slay queen. And that made her a sore thumb in the midst of regular chicks with boyfriends that are poor, broke, some of whom don't even have cars yet, working regular 9-to-5 jobs, everybody out here struggling to get to month end without there being a dry, patchy, arid desert land on the last week before payday. People struggling to even get petrol, still pouring gas at the gas station near 150 rand just to go to work for the last 2 days of the month. Those were our lives. And this chick, for her, it was like, whatever you're living, I'm not doing it. So she never got close with us. She never got close with anybody. And when you are living in that kind of cocoon, that hole of darkness, when you are living in that kind of a hole of darkness, you cannot be maintained without dissociating. You cannot be maintained without getting demon possessed extremely and then separating from that which is rational, that which is sensible, that which is normal. You cannot identify it. You can't see when you are aberrant. You can't see when you are absolutely dissociated. You can't see when something is just inappropriate. You lack the requisite empathy, sympathy, alongside ability to be able to relate with other women. And however, in spite of, in the rare occasion, relating, you then also lack an ability to appropriately respond or react to how much you can relate with the sorrow of another woman. You therefore become cold as ice, and it becomes every man or every woman for himself. And because of the inherent knowledge, inherent understanding by these kinds of amoeba, brain-eating amoeba women, because of their inherent comprehension of the fact that what they are is detestable, it's abominable, it's wrong, they feel a sense of wrath and therefore indignation against those who have rejected that life, because they look at them like, who do you think you are? Do you think you're better than me? And so they make it their life's mission to handle women that are like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna use witchcraft to handle a man, and I'm also sorry, I'm not gonna do whatever it takes just to eat. I need the loo. Yeah, I'm relieved. Okay, these women, they tend to have an inherent knowledge within that what they're doing is detestable, it's abominable. It's written in God's word that the Lord's law is written on our hearts. In Romans 1, it's written that when we reject the gospel, we do so at our own peril and are without excuse, because the invisible qualities of God are all over creation. And that we've got our consciences to speak volumes to us. So when you know that something is wrong, and you carry on with it anyway, you are going to develop a passive aggression against anyone that avoids essentially that which you are perpetually involved in. But when you are that extreme in how diabolical you are, you tend to be outdoing in their wickedness pretty much the large majority of the human race. The grander majority of the human race. Most women are not like you. Most women are not crazy like you. So there's going to be an inherent, I'm not going to go out by myself, a fever, a dedication towards converting as many women as possible. You are going to only praise and therefore put in your camp as acceptable, winnable, and wantable other women like you. And you are going to shun, despise, and treat like trash women that aren't like you. You are going to raise up other women in all of this crazy, and then actively sabotage those that reject that. Granted that you are into sorcery, You are then going to use spiritual means to do this, so you are on a violent recruitment drive to create more such ridiculous women as these. This recruitment drive is unfortunately very successful. With any cult that commences, there starts first one person with a crazy idea, and here it is that now 2 years later we've got 100,000 doting fans that are blindly following a blind guide. It grows, it mushrooms exponentially, and once the damage is done, it's done, it's done. All that can be done then going forward is to snatch as many souls as you possibly can out from the cult, but you are not going to eliminate the cult. You are not going to get rid of the cult. You can try and salvage, rescue 5 or 10, 20, maybe 50 women from the cult, but once it has grown to millions of followers, it's over. And so this metastasizing, brain-eating amoeba that these women are is the reason why in the last days there is so much catastrophe and inappropriate response to that which is sober and rational. Like I said earlier, these women are barely able to relate with other women until they make it feasible or possible to relate with other women. They create mini-thems. They create offspring, progeny. They make other women this ridiculous so that they can finally be able to relate, so they can find fellowship in other women. It is written in God's word that it is not good for man to be alone. Therefore God created Eve for Adam. Therefore God will make a helper suitable for man when he is alone. We therefore know that loneliness is fatal. Loneliness is lethal. Loneliness is wrong. Loneliness is not the stuff of humanity. It ought not be anyway. God himself considers it bad. Human beings will therefore perpetually try to relate with someone. They will always try to affiliate with people that are similar to them. Therefore, when you are a rare thing in the room, you are going to have an inherent desire to make out of yourself either that which now fits in, so you're going to bring yourself to the level of everybody else, you're going to try hard to fit in, or you're going to, if you've got any kind of leadership bone in you, you're going to try and create sycophants, fans, disciples. You are going to try and create fans and disciples that are similar to you. You are going to start what is called a cult. And there is a cult of brain-eating amoeba women that think that they're women, but they're not. They are the very opposite of women. They are an evil matriarchy. It's diabolical. It is the very bane of the earth's existence. Yet they think that they can proliferate this gangrene and not be severed. They think they can proliferate this gangrene and not be cut. When I was working at MTN, there was such brain-eating amoeba as this. A woman who also was just an intern, and yet she was always drenched in Gucci from top to toe, or designer apparel. On her salary, there is no way that she could afford that. She was always hanging out in the cars after work of colleagues, men that were in the business as senior managers, general managers, sometimes even executives. She was an intern. Beautiful body, beautiful face. And as a new intern, was found, spotted, multiple, I almost said after schools, but it was after works. Multiple evenings after work, just sitting in the cars of men that were very prolific in the business that the rest of us were scared of. We feared them because they were our bosses. So you don't just dilly-dally play around with this guy. You greet him, hi, but you don't mess with him. And this chick was constantly spotted in their cars after work, just chilling, talking after work. You're going to your car to go home, and then you walk past a vehicle, a Mercedes parked in the parking lot at work, and it's this girl and some GM, and she used to just change them, and she allowed the proliferation of that reputation in the business to happen because she didn't have friends and she didn't care. She did not have friends and she did not care. However, there was another chick that was similar to her, also an intern the following year, that started working at MTN that was just like her. And the two of them became fast friends. She was hard to make friends with. She was hard to maintain communication with. She was hard to talk with other than just for work. Yet she had lunch with this chick. She was always hanging out with this chick. They were laughing, seen basically bosom buddying. They hang with each other. That's why earlier I said I did not know how Petunia made any friends at all, because she certainly had them. But you see, her friends were just like her. They can't stand other women because they feel judged by them. And this sense of feeling judged then makes them embark on a mission to start a cult. They want a following. They want disciples. So they train other women up. And the thing about a cult is that once you have trained one other woman up in it, or one other person up in it, you have made a disciple that in and of themselves are making disciples of all nations. So therefore, it just grows exponentially. It flourishes. It buds like a bird. Sorry, like a rose bush. And this chick, like, remember the whole Slay Queen thing? Kanyimba likes to call herself the original Slay Queen. Because there weren't as many such brazen and bold-faced, outward, such women as these when we were on the come up. So what she was a taboo. But today now, that is no longer a taboo. But the sad and disquieting thing about that kind of being, a person, that's the same chick. That same chick at MTN was among those that used witchcraft on me. She was my junior. You know, when little kids that I'm trying to mentor bewitch me, I don't get it. I had quite a few young women in the business do that to me. But anyway, whatever. Yeah, she used sorcery on me. She was at such a distance from me that I could not comprehend why she came at me like a ton of bricks like that. But that's just the thing. They tend to not only... They tend to wish that they were better than what they are. And so they low-key look up to better women than that, but because they can never ever really truly be them, neither work on character to be them, they then try to sabotage them. And that's why this chick came after me. For instance, my cousin, when we were growing up, the one hectiki with the one that used to be my best friend, Tuli Tilis, that's gonna die in a car accident if she doesn't repent. When she started Ukjola, let me not say started, because really at that stage I think she'd already been in the game for a minute, but she was just 14. She was only 14, okay? She dated this guy that was 4 years, he was 19. Yeah, this dude was 19 years old when she was 14 going on 15. And I mean, when you're 19 with a kid that's just started high school, like, what are you doing? But anyway, whatever. Now that I think about it, like, Nilingoto, like, he was out of school and everything, and he used to drive. But the way that she used to speak so highly of him, I also just kind of I approved and whatnot. Now I realize it was just statutory rape. But anyway, whatever. This 19-year-old dude that was already out of high school, my cousin was dating him. And he had a younger sister that was our age. He had a younger sister that was also in grade 8 or grade 9, wherever it is that we were at the time. All right. And this dude would take my cousin to where he stayed, go Habona, because he was still living at home with his parents at that stage. And my cousin then met this chick that was our age, also 14. They got along like a house on fire, right? They were good with each other. She did not have a beef with her or anything like that. But this girl, this younger, so not younger, she was our age, exactly. She was our age, all right? This younger sister of this guy that was now not close, I can't really say they were friends, but they got along with my cousin, was a good girl. And her brother was overprotective of her. Her brother did not want her hanging out with boys. Her brother did not want her being out after a certain time. When she wasn't home by a certain time, he would out just be wondering what's going on. Sometimes he would go, like, my cousin and him would be chilling at his house, making out on the couch and what have you, and 4 p.m. would hit and he'd be like, where, let's say the sister's name was Lerato. Where's Lerato? She's not home yet. What is she doing out there? What is she doing out there? And then he would basically interrupt the peace between him and my cousin, making out at his house, get in his car and travel the neighborhood, go to the school, the high school where his sister went, to see if she's still, what's she doing? Why are you still at A? Why aren't you home? Why aren't you home? Why aren't you home? Type thing, little hypocrite. Okay, yeah. And then when he would find her walking on the street with some friends, he would stop the car and be like, hey, Ngena Motweni, what are you still doing at this time? You know you got a curfew, come home. And my cousin would be sitting there, hamang evura petumtano yellow. My cousin would be sitting there, hamba ngevura patumtana yellow, passenger seat, as a school uniformed little child sitting next to a 19-year-old boyfriend, and this chick would get in the back of the car and be like, "Hi guys, how are you?" And then the brother would be like, "Hi, how's it? Why aren't you home yet? You know you're supposed to be home by this particular time." And the chick was like, "Nah man, I just wanted to hang out with my friends. You're taking things too seriously," stuff like that. And then she'd be like, "Hi, they say my cousin's name was Pinky. Hi Pinky, how are you?" "No, I'm good." "Yeah, you good? You've been hanging out with my brother?" Okay, cool. Yeah. And then she was just like this innocent girl. And my cousin also at that stage had already started smoking. So my cousin was smoking cigarettes, and she was constantly making out, maybe even sleeping with, but she never confessed to breaking her virginity until much later, right, with this guy. And she would have spent her after school, from pretty much ever since she was picked up from school, and then made out, hung out with this boyfriend of hers all day long. 4 p.m. she was at this guy's house, and not even on a taxi on her way home. This guy made every year used to also drop her off at home, right? And she would get home just before her parents would get home. Her parents, my uncle and aunt, before they got home, that's when this dude, just at the cusp of it, would drop my cousin off at home on the days that he was hanging out with her. Okay, yet he had all these qualms with his baby sister, who was our age exactly, also grade 8 or 9 at the time. He had a bone to pick with her being home past a certain time. And she also didn't smoke, and would never be found caught wanting with a cigarette in front of her brother, even if she was experimental. She was also a good girl, always doing homework and academic, all that jazz. And my cousin would come and explain to me these dynamics and be like, "Oh, he's got a sister, she's so pretty, she's our age, she doesn't smoke like me." And you could tell that she was so disquieted. And then she would explain all of the things that this guy does, rebuking the sister, be home at this time, and she felt like an 18-year-old, like a matriculant, yet they were in the same grade, same age, yet she was so much more mature in terms of what she was doing with her life than this other 14-year-old / 15-year-old that is all our age. I also was still slow. I had never dated before. I'd never kissed a guy when I was in grade 8. I was just like the sister. I didn't smoke cigarettes. I was just like the sister of this dude. And my cousin being encircled by 14, 15-year-olds that are just girls. Like little children whose parents are out there huffing and puffing when they're not home by 3 p.m. She was encircled around her by girls like these. And she low-key liked their lives. She low-key liked their innocence. So much so was my cousin low-key desirous of being a pure little girl that she concealed when she broke her. She lied about who she broke her virginity with and at what point. She lied because the truth would later come, where she said that she broke her virginity with this one guy, only for her to one day in the future slip up and say something. And I was like, "But that guy was in this particular grade. You said that at that stage you were still a virgin." She lied to me about her dalliances, her experiences in these streets, because she wanted to fit in to the good girl grain, but she couldn't. However, my cousin had friends with whom she could be open, and she hung out with them. Guess who she used to hang out with? Older girls that had already matriculated, or that were in matric when she was just in grade 8 or grade 9. Unaploma, some of the time. And every time she would go out partying, clubbing and all that jazz, she was doing that with chicks that were in matric or out of school, doing their first year at varsity or at technicon or whatever. And when she was with these girls, she was the most free. And I would only ever meet these chacharach friends of hers one school holiday when I was 16. And the drinking, the smoke, that's when I started smoking. That's when I started drinking, because I was now hanging out with her older friends that are out of school, while we're still in school uniform, that are out here making out with a whole bunch of guys, and that are also starting to date people that are like 4 or 5 years older than you when you're still in high school. That's quite a big gap when you're still in high school, okay? Yeah, type establishment thing. What I'm trying to explain with that whole phenomenon, yeah, my cousin, is that these women low-key wish that they were good old-fashioned regular girls, but they aren't. And so initially wanting to fit in, and so lying about who they truly are, they then decide later on, Nuguti, what's the point of me hiding who I am? What I'm going to do is recruit. What I'm going to do is make out of other women what I am, so I don't have to hide in the shadows anymore. So my cousin grabbed me and peer pressurized me until I smoked. She grabbed me and made me date a guy that was 4 years older than me. When I was 17, I dated a dude that was like 21. I basically followed, I was recruited into this crazy. I was recruited because she realized, Uguti, I can't hide who I am indefinitely. So they want fellowship with other women because it's not good for men to be alone. So they create sycophants like them, like sycophants for them and disciples of their cult, until there are so many women just like them that follow the grain of this crazy, that now the good girls are the minority, they're rare. And so then the tables turn and it becomes a whole frenzy of bullying the good girl. And over time, the growth of this cult culminates in literally a last days pandemic of immorality among women. Hence, one of the letters to the church at Thyatira, it is written that, I know your works, you tolerate that woman Jezebel. The tolerating of evil women is a last days pandemic. The tolerating of bad girls, of the sexual revolution, of little witches all over the show. Women that have no respect for gender roles. Women that also have no regard for the patriarchy being leaders, being the leading head that God has appointed. Women that have no respect for even godhood and purity, virginity, piety. All that which made a girl wantable, lovable, desirable back in the day. All that which made for wife material, essentially, is literally flying out the window in 2024 and 2023, 2024. You get in the last days, the last couple of years, the last decade or two, all that which made for the kind of chick that you take home to mom is slowly, not slowly, rapidly changing, such that now it is the slay queen. It is the women that are obviously after men's money that are straying to getting married first or at all. It is women that are obviously evil. This woman that started working at MTN, that bewitched me after knowing me for just 2 weeks, this brain-eating amoeba, was married by then. She had been married at that stage like 2 years, and her wedding was even covered on top billing. That woman's character was so lacking, she was so vapid, that I could not for the life of me, however only after the act, understand how any man would take her seriously, how any man would get down on his knees and propose. She was so shallow and so rude and so crass, and so she was just a joke, man. And yet that's why you will find these women who at the age of 40 are single, and you will look around and you'll be like, how in the world is this chick still single even though she's wife material? Yeah, no, she used to be wife material. In 2024, these Jezebels all over the show have created such a burgeoning cult that they're now the majority, and with them being the majority, there's like a whole bunch of men marrying them. Not only that, men in and of themselves are duped into thinking that it's okay to be that wild as a woman, or it's okay to clearly want a guy for money. I don't even know why men fell for that, but I don't care. At this particular juncture, my ex-boyfriend went and married one, like proper, after being with a woman ride or die for as many years as we were together, and she was the bane of my existence in the relationship. She didn't want to be with him precisely because he didn't have much at the time that we were together. She came first, rejected him because he didn't have much, became what he became, and then he married her. It's like a woman that didn't want you when you had nothing. How do you walk that down the aisle? How do you walk that woman down the aisle? But now today he's singing John Legend's song, Baby, when I used to love you, nothing that I wouldn't do. I went through the fire for you, anything you asked me to. But I'm tired of living this lie. It's getting harder to justify. I realize that I just don't love you, not like I used to. Yeah, not let me say what thing they made out of me. Bye-bye, a joke. And I now look like something that is unmarriable, unmarriable, pass-upable, and worthless in favor of women that are clearly slay queens, women that are clearly untrustworthy, women that cannot be relied on to stay with a man when he's going through stuff. Like, think about Faith and Getzi. She got married, and then within I don't know how long, I don't even think it was a year. She divorced the guy because the money that he had, or his role that he was on, reached a dry patch. He stopped coining it. He hit some kind of a brick wall in his finances, and Faith walked within the first year. Like a man wins a tender or a contract that is multi-million rand big, and you think he's going to be on this roll forever, and then he reaches a dry patch, and because you realize ukuthi lo muntu lona is going to be exsanguinated, you then divorce him. There was never love. Kodwa la madoda are running with it because they think ukuthi that's what makes for a wife. And so then we as women that are in the minority now, where before we used to be in the majority, remember I told you my cousin, all the other 14-15-year-olds were normal. She was the one on that speed. But then fast forward 20 years down the line, and and the good girl is outnumbered because the cult freaking grew. It mushroomed. It recruited all the girls in the street. It made all the 15-year-olds happy to have a Range Rover, pick them up after school. And so therefore, good girls, being as outnumbered as they are now no longer getting married. We are getting to age 40 without husbands, without children, all that jazz. And then tired men that are singing John Legend's song, baby, when I used to love you, nothing that I wouldn't do. Went through the fire for you, everything you asked me to. But I'm tired of living this lie. It's getting harder to justify. I realize that I just don't love you, not like I used to. Men who get to that point in middle age now, 3 kids later, and a divorce from a woman that is unreliable. They said, yeah, the women that were supposed to be the ones that they married at all in the first place. Because how in the world do you allow yourself to get down on your knees and propose marriage to a woman that would never have been with you if you didn't have money? A woman that wouldn't have stayed with you if you had lost a contract? A woman that would never have considered you if unomoshela in simplicity, and you knowing that, having been given that proof, yawning. That's why I'm chada. Yes, like it brought something so unreliable. What are the odds that this woman is going to be ride or die? What are the odds that this woman is going to be thick and thin in sickness and in health from this day forth till death to us part? Faith in within a year. Because the dude's role that he was on slowed down. Trophies, that's what they are. Yeah. We are being destroyed, we are being hurt as women that have not fallen or kept or maintained a grain, or that have been snatched out from the cult. Because frankly, I got snatched out from the cult. I, in and of myself, made a decision. I noticed, long story short, with my cousin, I noticed when I got to my 20s, especially when she had a baby, when girl, because I was busy following her and all of her funny little trends. When then she went and had a baby, when ain't nobody here be ready to be raising no children, I was like, I realized that my cousin was a fool. I saw when I was now in corporate that she was irresponsible, losing jobs. She was always hungover, losing jobs because she wasn't there at work on Monday. Top of that, she's out here having babies without medical aid, without proper care, blah 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 blah. She cheated on her boyfriend to be with a guy that she thought had more money. When it became clear that that guy didn't have money, she then went back to the guy that she left before because she heard that he was busy bacheloring some other woman. And then this man met with hard times, but she could not walk away from him at that stage. Why? Because she had already given him a baby. I saw trend the other chick when we were all just 22, and I was like, I am not following this woman anymore. Like, she was my role model thing that I used to look up to. No more would I ever now date a guy because she recommended him. No longer would I now do something because she did it. About pregnant too with the same baby shower. No, we're not gonna have a double baby shower thrown for us out here giving guys babies when everybody is still here comparing, or there's no, you get my point. I was like, I saw her trajectory I was a smart woman. I realized that I dropped the ball. Even in grade 11, my results dropped. I was an academic, and I started to underperform because I was busy following around a very forward young woman, a very forward teenage girl. I was out here making her my barometer, and I dropped the ball on my studies. And so therefore, that's why I, to this day, am not sitting on 7 distinctions in matric. That's why I entered into this university by the skin of my teeth. That's why I did not get a scholarship. And that is also the reason why I was not a prefect or even a head girl in high school. It's because I was following a chick that from 14 in Jeffela was already dating Babashiman Badikolwe. I messed up. My life got messed up. But when I turned around 21, 22, that's when I was like, especially considering she betrayed me somewhere along the way. When I was going through a lot, I did a video, a very long one, explaining how she went all cold on me and awry when I had to drop out of this university because my mom wasn't paying my fees, and I lived Karabo, and she gave me a lot of attitude and showed her true colors. After that, I was like, yo, la uzolimal. And so I started becoming independent minded. So the thing that rescued me from the cult was the observation that it doesn't pay off. This chick so self-destroyed, so young, so early, that the fruit of her crazy, upon it rearing its ugly head at that young age, then made me, as a young woman too, who was also the same age as her, sober up. And so I started making my own decisions, even though I kept her as a friend. I started to make my own life decisions. I can't about this thing anymore. That's when I was rescued from the cult. And then I would give my life to Christ 4 years later from that date. And I started to notice how many women in totality are falling into the cult. Some are rescued from the cult because they give their life to Christ. Others are rescued from the cult because they make an observation that this life doesn't pay. They look at Kangimbao in 2024 and they're like, sorry, I don't want to be that. They see the ramifications in the lives of fellow slay queens. And they're like, or a fellow like swag women, man, like Abafazi that aren't women. They're not women. Kitty Popeye, kitty toys, but they make Popeyes out of dumb men. Proverbs 7, the adulterous woman. The Bible warns against her. The feet of this woman go down to death. They ultimately destroy Amadota. But these men, before they get destroyed by these women, and then they rock up at 43, 45, 50, and they try to make Istembu out of Karabo. They try to make a second wife out of Karabo. They try to make a third wife out of Karabo. They try to make either a second wife in a polygamous marriage, or Bafunuk divorce the slave queen for me, making me seconds, making me scribes, making me number 2, number 3, making me that which I was never supposed to be. Because these men in and of themselves are full of folly. They are Janus and Jambres. They are stealthy. They are into ill-gotten gain. Even they are involved in the crazy of these last days. And so they cannot, with any level of sobriety, spot when Umfazi is no good. They can't spot it. It's just fun. Gumnandi, she's low-hanging fruit. A man does not have to build character to win such women. They just need to build a bank account. Manje, when you don't have to build character, it's low-hanging fruit in Jeffela to flail, wave, money gun in the general direction of a woman. Oto landisa 10,000 rands and that's all that you need to do in order for her to lay under you and even accept your wedding proposal. When it's such low-hanging fruit and you don't have to build character, it's easy. So now, when you are this decrepit, violent, rude, uncultured, psychopathic, dissociated man that's never taught himself chivalry and how to be in daughter, and you've been spoiled by rotten women that did not demand, but what's the word? Insist that you be cordial, insist that you be well-mannered, insist that you be temperate, insist that you be chivalrous. When women don't insist that essentially you don't rudely speak to them, when women don't insist on you being well-mannered, uzofika ku Karabo and demand me and say Karabo must done, Karabo must done, Karabo must done. Aona malimus, aona yo. The kinds of men that are all up in my girl. Yo. Awuna chelete mus. Awuna msebenzi mus. Abantu bakini abakuthandi mus. Awuna yo. Vele bajwayele to out just shoot a money gun in a woman's face. And she therefore does not care that every so often every so often he speaks to her some anyhow nje. Uyazithela. Uyaziphonsa. Every so often he can use expletives when speaking to a woman. He can just easily throw the F word because uporegile. He can just easily call you the B word. Mega poregile. Or ignore you. Ghost you. Oh my god, that one. Ghosting. Yo. I never ever me in my life saw ghosting until the dude in the US. He showed me flames. I didn't know that that was a thing. How am I a single man that I had ever been any kind of serious with that's ever ghosted me? Like as in I'm out here texting and the guy's not responding. I'm out here calling Arabi. I can't say be ghosting, guys. This guy in the US trained me ghosting. And it was so new, it was so foreign that at some point I even thought that maybe he didn't get my text. I even thought that maybe his email, I could check her email address to see if maybe I didn't skip a letter, but it had already auto-populated because I'd already sent him so many emails. So, I mean, of course, he's here. Like, receive my DM on Facebook. And it's just tumbleweed, tulil. I've never been ignored, Mina, guys. By any guy that was my boyfriend. Oh, ghostwa. I've only ever been ghosted by guys that weren't my boyfriends. That did not ever show any kind of interest in me. And so when I texted Azangwa respond to umuntu wakhona, then it's like, okay, that's his way of saying I don't care for you. But somebody that I'm with as a means of handling me or fighting, being upset, ghost me. My ex-boyfriend, we would fight, we would dump each other, we would break up. But I have never been ghosted by him. This whole thing, you block and umuntu futhi, like blocking me so I can't write you, or you block, or me block you. The communication was always available. Rather respond with, I'm not in the mood of talking, but just disappear. Yo, ghosting is a 21st century phenomenon, and women are just dealing. They're just taking it. How you gonna get back together with somebody that you texted 4 times and said nothing for 3 weeks? What? They don't develop character because they get trained. How in the world are you going to be in a relationship with someone that's called you the B word before? Or in an argument, the F word is a guy. How many F words? I do not know that level of ghosting and that level of use of expletives in arguing with a woman. And I have had my fair share of fights with boyfriends. Angazing tugwa. Like, I can see where it's along. You see, the guys of this day, they are so spoiled, nje. Kanguti, they can just roll. And this dude in America, I've done shit like that. Duh. Would send deposits into my bank account. I literally didn't care. He would send me money. They're used to it. They're used to not building character, just bank accounts. Not building character. Not being trained how to talk to a woman. You don't talk to a woman the same way that you talk to your boy when you're mad. When men are fighting, gune intensity there. That is between them. But you don't get to bring that same level of intensity to a woman. They're also short-tempered. Short. And they are passive-aggressive and rude. Do you know there was a study done where it is that there were placebo water, like some saline solution, right next to the tears of women, put in a solution, and men were to smell them. One group in a control environment, the saline solution, while the other ones are in the experiment phase, right? Not the control, but the actual hypothesis testing. And these men were given cues, administered in their members, cues that would inspire irritation in them. Like they were flashed with things that would generally agitate them, annoy them, right? Things that were borang. And in the control study, they were made to, after these cues were flashed in their general direction that are generally agitating, and so therefore them being irritated, they were made to smell the saline solution. That's the control, the placebo. No, actually, there was no placebo effect. That's the control study. And then the other men on this side were also made to smell the same solution. Not the same, but the solution of women's actual tears. Having these men, with these men not knowing what they're smelling, they just knew that they were given some clear liquid to smell it after being flashed with images that generally upset them. And by a landslide, the men that were given the tear solution, the solution of the tears of the women, their aggression simmered down after smelling the tears of the women, unbeknownst to themselves that that's what they're smelling. Their aggression was reduced in observable capacities. They had all different kinds of things plugged onto them, patched like onto their faces.